born in Papua New Guinea, the daughter of a Navy man.
Yeah, Dad was a lieutenant commander in the Navy.
So what was your childhood like? It would have been very different to most of your friends, I would think.
We only stayed there for probably a year of my infancy, and then we relocated back to Australia and we went, I think we lived in Canberra then, Sydney, Perth, Brisbane, and then I think back to Victoria for a little while, back to sort of typical Navy brat upbringing. We lived on a boat for a little while. I did my schooling via correspondence while we travelled around the Whitsunday Islands. We lived in a camper van for a while and travelled around the top of Australia, and again did schooling via correspondence for that time. So always, and I think that's probably contributed to the reason why I've maybe chopped around in terms of my employment. I guess I've always been used to just jumping from one to the other. Yeah, and I enjoy change. I enjoy a new environment.
So how old were you when you guys finally settled in one spot?
It would have been midway through my primary school years, just before I started high school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's pretty full on because you're making your friends, and so did you? How did you even maintain friendships or have friends when you were that young?
Not with great ease.
No.
If you're constantly moving or knowing, and children are very perceptive. If you're anticipating that you're going to be moving again, then it means that that transience really affects your friendships or your capacity to be able to make strong bonds.
Totally.
I have a sister who's 2 years older. I think she was the one that really instigated the change and for us to find a spot and stay still for a little while. She was about to go into high school, and that age of as a young girl, it's really important that you do have that stability within a social group, and in order for you to be able to just integrate into any kind of social life at all, it's important to stay still. So it was in country Victoria that we stopped in, and I got to stay at one school, which was really amazing. But also difficult at the same time because I was not used to the idea of staying in one place for particularly long, and it still wasn't easy to make friends.
Yeah, right. So when you settled, what were your school years like? Did you find it hard to fit in? Mm-hmm. Why is that, do you think, because you had moved so much? Or? Yeah,
and just being the new kid. I was so used to being the new kid. And at that age of children are generally pretty cruel. They're not usually ones to kind of make room on the bench seat for you to sit next to them and let you hang out. So in a really positive way, I ended up hanging out with the kids that were already kind of on the outer pile anyway, but much more interesting kids, and I'm glad of it.
And they always are, aren't they? Because you just
so
desperately long to be a part of the popular group, but everyone's the same. And then it's the little weirdo in the corner that you're like, actually, you're kind of funny.
Yeah, and they're awesome. And of all of the people that I met at that time, those one or two people that I hung out with, they're the ones that have remained my close, strong friends and who have ended up being my shining lights. Who professionally and personally have been, I think have been incredibly successful, whereas the other ones I'm not so inspired by.
Did you have any trouble with bullying or anything when you were at school? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too that was just that thing of being the new kid at every school that I went to, and unfortunately, because my sister and I came in a double package, if my sister had problems, then there would be other kids. I would be dragged into that, and vice versa. I feel terribly guilty sometimes about the fact that if there was a girl that was picking on me, my age group, there'd be an older sister that would want to take it out on her as well. So there'd be that lunchtime thing where I'd be getting my head smacked in, and then...
Literally, would you...
Oh, yeah.
No way!
Yeah, or... It was funny, somebody asked me just recently, they said, were you kind of a toughie at school? And I said, only out of necessity. If someone was to try and swing one at me now, I would definitely get I'd bottom lip it and I'd duck. But back then, that was very much a necessary part of my armour, my survival kit. Like you'd have to, it was more out of...
Survival?
Well, yeah, self-defence. You had to be able to kind of...
Wow, that is so you would go to school feeling really unsafe then, not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I had problems with girls. There's not many girls who get through school without having problems. But I remember once a girl threatened to physically hit me, and it scared the shit out of me. But you actually had to
The threat of it is
that.
often worse
so
than the
scared.
actuality. I mean, one of my world famous rumbles.
How many has there been?
There's
imagine.
been a few, but also too, like some of the schools that we went to, there were some rougher neighbourhoods.
It was, yeah.
And my parents are really aware of that, and I think that they didn't feel particularly good about the fact that they could see what was going on. But one fight that I had ended in a Vegemite sandwich. This girl had given me a hard time, and I'd copped a couple of swings during the lunch break. And so when we reassembled and we sat in a circle on the floor just before the break went out, I opened up a Vegemite sandwich, ran and went, and then went, and ran for my life. And it was like the whole classroom emptied out. It's like, you know what? If you want to play dirty with me,
Yeah, I got Vegemite
I'm going to smear you. Your name is Mud.
But that would be more humiliating than getting
Don't you
punched
think?
too. You totally won.
Try washing that out of your hair. That's mean on a braid. But also too, it's just like that. What are your tools for survival? And it's tough as a young kid. You just don't know.